Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Last week, I was having lunch with my nemesis, Sean, and we got to talking about Old World. Now, Old World isn't something I've been super interested in, but he mentioned that he was interested in it, and he was interested specifically in the Bretonnians, which is awesome because I do not want to play the Bretonnians. I have so many Bretonnian-like projects going on that I just do not want to paint more regular dudes. But if he was taking care of the Bretonnians, I could maybe futz with some Tomb Kings. The Tomb Kings are kind of cool. Skeletons paint up really, really quick, and what's like that blue color, lapis lazuli? That's a really, really fun color to paint. I think it would paint up really quickly. There's a big box coming out. In fact, I think it's already out for pre-order. As the gears started to turn, I was starting to get a little bit excited. Like maybe, you know what? How much does a big box cost? Usually about $200. Kind of pricey, but if I get it from my friendly local game store, it's 50% off, $170. Maybe I can make that happen if it means I get to try out the game, see what it's about. I know that they rewrote the rules, but I would feel like I would still get a little inkling of what it was like way back in the days of Warhammer Fantasy Battle strategy game. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I can do it. And then I saw the prices. Woof. It was probably really wishful thinking that the boxes would come in at $200 because Games Workshop doesn't really do $200 boxes anymore. I guess, was Leviathan 200? I think it might have been 250. But yeah, they don't really do $200 boxes. I mean, back in the Disney box, the big boxes were $100. Oh, and what glorious days those were. But the Bretonnian edition starter set is 255 American bones. Whew, that is some cheddar. And it doesn't feel like you get a ton of stuff. You get a lot of line infantry, and you get the Pegasus Riders, and Pegasus Riders are really cool. You get some cavalry, you get the new big bad plastic guy who's riding the Mega Pegasus. Like, sure, you get some stuff, but then I scrolled on down to my Tomb Kings. $290. Oh, $290, basically $300 for a very similar amount of stuff. I mean, you get the Crocoduck Dragon, which is really, really cool looking, and then you get some of the old guys who are bad. The old Games Workshop skeletons, they chonked them up so that they could actually cast them well in plastic. And I think that Games Workshop's done a really good job with skeletons and recently with the Soulblight Gravelord skeletons and some of the other skeleton models they've come out with to make them spindly and weak-looking skeletons without having them be super incredibly fragile miniatures. These old ones are chunky and really, really fragile. Really kind of yucky miniatures, but you get the Crocoduck, you get the chariots, you get the shields, which cover up a lot of the skeleton's bodies, so I don't know about this starter set. It's a lot of miniatures, and maybe it's worth $290, but I'm not so sure. Because my dream was I get the starter sets, and then the Necro Sphinx. Of course, they'll bring back the Necro Sphinx, the best looking miniature from old Warhammer. Absolutely glorious, and then I can call it a day. But these starter sets are estimated to be around 1,200 points, and a game of Old World proper is supposed to be played at 2,000 points because that's just the number Games Workshop likes. There's no real meaning behind these point systems, but 2,000 points is supposedly a real game. So if I wanted to bump it up, it probably can't be done with just the Necro Sphinx. And Games Workshop showed off some of the other models that are going to be re-released, and those numbers are kind of rough too. The Tomb Guard, the slightly more elite infantry for the Tomb Kings, $80 for 20. There's two ways to look at that price point. It's 20, it's essentially 2 squads of 10. And a squad of 10 would probably cost like $50. So having 2 squads for $80 is sort of a discount, but it's also $80. I don't know, feels a little bit rough in my opinion. And then if you keep going, Sepulchral Stalkers, $60 for 3 Snake Boys. These guys are pretty dope, and I think $60 is okay. I'm kind of used to paying $60 for like the medium-sized infantry, the big ogres or giant models, so that's pretty good. And it kind of looks like to build the Sepulchral Stalkers and the Necropolis Knights. It looks like if you can just get some more tails or 3D print some tails, it looks like you could actually have both units for 60 bucks. So yeah, that's pretty solid right there. Don't mind that at all. But then if I keep going, the Ushabti, which is the first Warhammer miniature I ever saw in my life. My cousin introduced me to Warhammer and he played Tomb Kings. And when he first cracked open his wargaming case, the Ushabti were sitting right there. Really, really cool miniatures. Once again, 3 kind of medium ogre-sized miniatures, $85 because they're metal. And I'm fine with them being made of metal, but why do they cost so much more? Is it because they're made of metal? Because these are kind of smaller than the Snake Boys, and the Snake Boys are 60 bucks, and these guys are $85. I'd like to have them in my army. I don't know if I'd like to have them for $85. Like usually when you pay a ton more than like average retail for Warhammer, it means it's like a Forge World unit. It's something weird and wacky that you probably don't actually need in your army, but sometimes it's fun to have like the Forge World exclusivity. Almost like when your army is all come together and you have everything and it's pretty and beautiful and sitting on your shelf, then you start to think, well, what are the outer limits of Warhammer? What is the weirdness that I can add to this collection? I feel like that's when you start to spend the big money. Ushabti are just a normal unit, 85 bones, kinda hurts. There's some stuff that's looking pretty darn good. The Lich Priest, $15 for a beautiful miniature. I'm pretty sure Juan Diaz sculpted a lot of the old range for Tomb Kings, and his models are so incredibly good. Then you've got stuff like Cetra, the Imperishable, $60 for a chariot. And this model is hilarious because you've got Cetra, a beautiful, immaculate miniature. This little Tomb King lord is beautifully sculpted. You see his muscles and his armor and his clothing. And then you've got that chariot he's on. And boy, oh boy, does it look like Legos. It looks so bad. The horses literally look exactly like the Lego skeleton horse. In fact, the Lego skeleton horse might look better. Man, those little horsies just look rough. They are really, really, really showing their age. And it's hilarious to have the beautiful Cetra on this chariot. 60 bucks, that's okay for a larger HQ choice. It's not the end of the world. But man, it's just kind of reminding me how expensive Games Workshop is getting. We've got the new plastic characters. Tomb King, just Tomb King, the guy himself, 35 bucks. Battle Standard Bearer, 36 bucks. I assume that extra dollar is for the extra plastic that we used to take the banner. These guys are brand new plastics. They look absolutely fantastic. 35 bucks is not horrible for them. But man, it's really the Ushabti. The Ushabti at $85 hurts. It's just a normal unit. It's just a normal unit. Why does it cost so much more than a normal unit? And the Tomb Swarm. The Tomb Swarms are $56 for 3 bases. Assuming that there's something along the lines of like Necron Scarab Swarm bases, 56 feels really, really pricey. And weirdly, it says in the article that they're cast out of Forge World resin. So Games Workshop is bringing it all back for Old World. We got Forge World resin, we got white metal, we got old school plastics. It's gonna be just like the old days, which is really, really funny. And of course, the Necro Sphinx. One of the most gorgeous miniatures ever made. I think 75 bucks is high, but it's fine. It is a big monster of a unit. You actually get another Tomb King if you build the Necro Sphinx instead of the War Sphinx. It's a really, really cool kit. I think charging that much is acceptable. What's kind of interesting is none of the units that actually come in the starter set are being sold separately right now. So if you really like something out of the starter set, you're kind of stuck with the starter sets, and you have to get the starter set if you want those particular units. I'm sure that's not by accident. I'm sure Games Workshop wants you to get the starter box and the rest of the range of miniatures. In fact, I would love to know the points cost of things because I almost wonder if it adds up perfectly. If you buy the starter set and all of the re-releases, if that actually makes you a perfect 2,000 point army. Because the starter set, and then what I would want, the Ushabti, the Necro Sphinx, and probably a squad of Tomb Guard, it'd be like $500 to start the Tomb King's army. And I don't got that kind of cash right now. But I was wondering, that's hurting my soul a little bit. $500. Is that unreasonable? Is that way out in left field for Games Workshop? So I went over to the app, the Army Builder app, and I put together a little Necron army, the 40K's version of Tomb Kings. And I put together a little list, including the Silent King, because the starter box for the Tomb Kings comes with the Crocoduck, the gigantic, probably very expensive hero centerpiece. So I used the Necron hero centerpiece, the Combat Patrol, and a smattering of the units you would want, like Tomb Stalkers and stuff. And so I added it all to cart on the Games Workshop web store, and it was $700. Oh, it was just a normal 2,000 point army, I thought. And I thought, there's no way it could cost that much. And I think I'm just so used to already owning a lot of miniatures from years and years ago, purchasing models on eBay or secondhand. I feel like I can put together armies pretty darn cheap. But not really, apparently, if a Necron army is costing $700. And to dip your toes into Old World, it's gonna cost $500. So I don't know, I just experienced a whole lot of sticker shock this week. And maybe I'm exaggerating, or maybe I am just being a little bit silly, but I was on the fence about Old World, and then when Sean showed some interest, I was like, you know what? I could paint some skeletons. That sounds like a fun time. And then $500. I don't have $500. Please let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Old World? Are you just holding off until something other than Tomb Kings and Bretonnians is available? Is it really, really hard to stomach a brand new Warhammer army at Warhammer prices? Because, you know, it's easy enough when you started in high school and you kind of got your army and you just add a box here and there every month or so. But just adding to cart an army is just not really doable. It's just not something that can be done. And maybe these starter sets are good value. They do come with a lot of miniatures, but they charge. They charge for a lot of miniatures, and I don't know if I have it in me to start a Tomb Kings army anymore. For 4 days, I've been thinking, you know what? Tomb Kings. And then I saw the price of the box, and now I was like 60% convinced, and now I'm back down to like 20% convinced. Ooh, maybe I can call up my cousin and see if he actually still has his Tomb King models. If my cousin still has his Tomb King models, that with the starter set would probably get me a really nice 2,000 point Tomb Kings army. Ooh. Yeah, because I actually have some old dwarf models for Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but not nearly enough to play the game, and I've been kind of checking eBay, and it seems like people are kind of gearing up for Old World, so it's really hard to find old Hammer stuff for a really, really good price right now. But if I have a man on the inside with a direct line to some miniatures, it's so hard. Let me know, do you guys want to see Tomb Kings? Do you guys want to see some painting and some army projects of Tomb Kings? Or should I just focus on 40K? Because I really should just focus on 40K, because 40K, I've got the stuff. It's on the shelf. It's right over there. You can't see it because it's off camera, but it's over there. So many miniatures need to get painted. But Tomb Kings is happening this year. It's kind of exciting. I've read all of the articles about the actual rules for the game, and it's looking really, really good. So I don't know. I'm experiencing a lot of sticker shock. I don't really know what to do. I don't even know if Sean's willing to spend $250 on Bretonnian starter box. So maybe this whole project is already dead in the water. But man, Games Workshop models are really, really expensive. And I think just the biggest middle finger was the Ushabti for $85 because they're made of metal. Just metal is worse. They shouldn't cost more money because they're made of metal. Assuming that Games Workshop is spin casting them and they had to refurbish the old molds, it probably is a giant pain to make the Ushabti, because instead of just squishing out a new kit every 30 seconds with a plastic press, they actually have to pay somebody to spin cast all of the Ushabti. So it probably should cost more money, but I'm not willing to pay more money for a worse quality product. Now, if they remade them in plastic, I would be down, because the Ushabti are a really cool model. And I'll just never forget my cousin cracking open the lid, and I looked at those Ushabti, those little Anubis warrior guys with their two-handed staffs, and being like, there's a game called Warhammer? What is this? Because my whole life I've been building things and playing with Lego And I feel like Warhammer is the perfect crossover of all of my interests. So I would love the Ushab tee, but not at that price. Warhammer the Old World has kind of taken me on a roller coaster ride and is kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. But you know what'll fix that right up? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we have a brand new set of terrain every single month, and this month we have the Crashed Spaceship. An absolutely monstrous set of terrain that is the perfect thing to spice up your battlefield with some really, really thematic terrain. And if you always want to stay up to date on the goings-on here at Eons of Battle and be entered into our monthly giveaways, this month we're picking 3 followers to receive this month's terrain. You can follow the link in the description below to sign up to our newsletter. Oh, Old Hammer, oh, Games Workshop, what are you doing to me? Because now, I already said yes in my head, and to Sean, but now that I know how much things cost, whew, I am not so sure. I have a lot of thinking to do. Thanks for watching.